So it has been quite some time since the last mock draft on this channel, and that's because I was waiting to see some of this free agency unfold. Trades happening, players being signed, and so many players going from the NFC to the AFC. It seemed like star after star after star was packing their bags from an NFC team and heading cross conference. I mean, with some of the trades, Russell Wilson to the Broncos from the Seahawks, Robert Woods most recently went from the Rams to the Titans, and there are some great free agents still available, but I needed to get a mock draft out for you guys, knowing some more info about where these teams might be looking to go in the draft and where maybe they're a little bit more unlikely to go. So let's go ahead and start with number one. I still think the Jags are in position to take an offensive tackle, even after doing some work on the offensive line through free agency, bringing guys like Andrew Norwell, Brandon Sheriff to replace Andrew Norwell, who is a guard, but Cam Robinson still maybe working to extend him long term. It's unknown. Right tackle, still a bit of a hole. I know the Jags did a lot of work on that O-line, but it's still in need of a little bit more help. Now, that being said, I'm not going to look offensive tackle with this first pick, and I'm going to go Aiden Hutchinson. I think there's certainly a world where the Jags look to start Walker Little at tackle, their second round pick from a year ago. I think there's still a chance that Cam Robinson can be extended long term. So I decided to go Aiden Hutchinson here, maybe the best player in the draft. So worthy of that number one overall selection. Although if I'm the Jaguars, I'm probably looking to trade down. But as always, you need someone to want to trade up in order to be able to trade down as we go to the Lions at number two. I really do think there's a good chance that we could still see Malik Willis go off the board here. I think there's a really good chance that that happens. And even though it's reported to be unlikely by media, I think there's a chance that we see a quarterback go very high. Quarterbacks go high every year. Jared Goff was the number one overall pick. In the same draft, the Eagles moved up a lot to get Carson Wentz. Teams take shots at these quarterbacks. And I think a team like the Lions, who don't need to play this kid right away, can take Malik Willis at number two and look to develop him as their franchise quarterback. There are other options. Don't get me wrong. The Lions probably not going to take a tackle. Might even consider Kyle Hamilton, Kayvon Thibodeau, Trayvon Walker. Like, some of these guys are in play, but I think given the talent in the draft, Malik Willis actually makes a lot of sense at number two. Make a commitment this March to getting more for doing less, because today's sponsor is Fetch Rewards. It's an app you can download, and whenever you go shopping, you simply just scan the receipt, and it works with literally any retail receipt. It isn't just limited to mainstream stores and supermarkets, and the goal is to get free rewards like Visa or Amazon gift cards. It's a free app, so as I said, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Doesn't take any effort to do. Get more for doing less. It doesn't matter how long your retail receipt is either. You can take 2 pictures and the app will stitch them together for you. After that, you'll hit submit and boom, get points back to save money on almost anything you can think of. Check out the rewards section. You can get something at Amazon or Best Buy and get basically anything you can think of. If you prefer shopping online, it's actually somehow even easier to scan the receipts. Just hit the E button, it'll scan your email for eligible receipts and you get coupon points back. So get started yourself and sign up via the link in the description and use code Bengal to get 3,000 points for free when you scan your first receipt. Again, that's the first link in the description, and use code Bengal to get started today. Thanks to Fetch Rewards for sponsoring the video. Texans are up at number 3 and they pick again at 13, by the way. I still think offensive line is in play. However, because they worked to extend Laramie Tunsil, rework that contract a bit, I'm going to stay away from offensive tackle here, although I still think a guy like Ike Ekwonu is very much in play for the Texans at this selection. If he's the number 1 tackle on their board, or even guard, which is a possibility, they might just want to take him. I really think that's a possibility, but we're going to go for one of the more versatile players in the draft. Do-it-all safety, Kyle Hamilton at 3. They pick again at 13. It's a deep edge class. They might want to take an edge rusher there or a receiver. And we're going to go Kyle Hamilton at 3. He's a tough player to slot. I think this is the highest I've had him drafted so far. I still think there's a chance he falls to 8. or even 10, or maybe even a little bit further than that. I think that's a possibility, especially with how the league values safety nowadays, but it's becoming a more valuable position. The Texans maybe just looking for best player available. We keep hearing about Kayvon Thibodeau dropping. We're going to honor that and drop him a little bit here as we get to the Jets at number 4. Both top offensive tackles are still available, and we're going to take one. We're going to go with Ikem Ekwonu at number 4. I think the Jets could probably play him at right tackle and be very happy. Still could look to maybe make him a guard. Has experience playing guard at NC State, was a left tackle all of last year. He is versatile. You can do a number of different things depending on what you want to do with your team and where your flaws are. For the Jets, I think he probably ends up playing either right guard or right tackle, but I think it would probably be right tackle. Replacing George Fant, you have Laken Tomlinson, who signed a contract. I think he's probably going to stay at left guard, which is his more natural position, and you'd move Elijah Vera Tucker to right guard, making Ekwonu your plug-and-play right tackle. That's what I think could happen at this pick. Getting to the Giants at number 5, Evan Neal, Kayvon Thibodeau, both still on the board, and we're going to go with Evan Neal. I still think that you can make a really good case for Ekwonu being the best tackle in the draft. For Neal as well, but when the top 3 teams look to go other directions, which could certainly happen, Evan Neal falls to 5. Could be taken at 4. You could flip-flop Neal and Ekwonu if you wanted to. Real good athlete and a monster of a man. Very, very big as you get to the Panthers at 6. And you know what? I do kind of want to take Charles Cross here, maybe even Trevor Penning. But the rumors now are that Carolina really likes Kenny Pickett. And with them not targeting a quarterback in free agency or via trade at all, I think the likelihood of them looking to draft a quarterback is fairly high. I will be going Kenny Pickett at number 6 overall. And I think if I had to put a percentage on it happening, I think it's probably about 40% right now, which is fairly high. I think the real options at that pick are one of the tackles in like Charles Cross, Trevor Penning. I don't really think Neal or Ekwonu gets past number 5. I think either the 2 quarterbacks, Pickett or Malik Willis, and you can divvy up that percentage either way. I'm not saying it cut it, equally each way, where Pickett's 20 or Pickett's 40, Malik Willis is 20, either of the tackles are 20. I'm not doing anything like that. Just saying that I think Kenny Pickett maybe is more likely than anyone else at this spot. And then maybe you talk about a corner, maybe Sauce Gardner, maybe even Derrick Stingley. I think those are your true options at number 6. I think it's a quarterback, I think it's a tackle, or a corner. But they brought back Dante Jackson. I think corner may be looking a little less likely as we get to the Giants at 7. It feels unbelievable that only one edge rusher is off the board at this point, and that could change a lot depending on what the Texans do at 3. I went Kyle Hamilton to mix it up. Haven't done that, although I have seen that. Kyle Hamilton at 3. It seems crazy that only one edge is gone with the hype that Trayvon Walker has had recently, with the hype that Kayvon Thibodeau has had for years now. I mean, he burst onto the scene as a freshman, 5-star for Oregon. So there's still a really good chance he goes really high. I can make a very good argument still for Kayvon Thibodeau going number 1 overall. But if the reports are that he has a chance to drop, we're trying to be accurate, and we're going to drop Kayvon Thibodeau as a result. However, does he get past the Giants at 7? I wouldn't think so. I don't really think he gets past the Giants at 5, at least in terms of talent. Thibodeau is one of the best players in the draft to me still. I still would take him at number 1 probably if I were the team, but he falls to 7. It feels crazy, but this is what everybody has nowadays, and I usually do go off of how I feel about the player a lot of the time, but here we are going to drop Thibodeau. Just kind of how the board happened to fall. A bunch of good players still here, but when 2 quarterbacks go inside the top 6, you're going to see other positions drop. It's just going to be what happens. However, Falcons at 8. This one just feels too perfect. I'm going to go Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. I think the Giants could take a corner too. We'll get to some of that stuff in future videos. But Trayvon Walker, edge out of Georgia. The Falcons are just not in a great spot. They're just not. It's not a very talented team. Their offense is really poor. I think Cross would be in play to replace Caleb McGarry, but maybe it's a little less likely. I think one of the top receivers in the draft, and they're all available still, certainly in play. Maybe it's a Garrett Wilson at 8. I do kind of like that. But here, we're just going to go maybe the best player available. The Falcons are in a rebuild. They're trying to rebuild from the ground up. They don't have that QB to build around. They got Marcus Mariota. That's your bridge QB to the next one. But you just need to take someone that you can try and develop with a high ceiling. And that's what Trayvon Walker is. Freak athlete. Definitely someone that is going to be really good in run defense right away. Trying to develop him a bit more as a pass rusher will be the challenge there. But I think he has all of the athletic capability to make it happen. I think Walker's going to be a good player. I really, really do. He should be a monster. But that might not be this year, next year, even 3 years from now. He's a little bit more of a long-term play. So that's Trayvon Walker at 8. Seattle at number 9. Man, this one's tough because they have a lot of different needs. They really do. Who knows if Dwayne Brown's going to be back? Don't have a quarterback right now. It's not Drew Lock. 2 quarterbacks are off the board. This is a scenario that could happen. Seahawks need edge horribly. Corner is always really important in their scheme, and the top one in Sauce Gardner is available. That being said, I really, really, really love Jermaine Johnson as a player, and the Seahawks need edge help so badly. They need to put pressure on the quarterback, and yes, it would be so tempting to look to draft ahead and say, you know what, Seahawks could really take a corner. We'll take one right here and make it easy for the Jets. I'll just go Jermaine Johnson. Perfect fit for that defense. But I can't draft ahead. That's not how these mock drafts work. You can't look to make the perfect pick. You got to do what you think the team would do at that spot. And I think Jermaine Johnson is one of the best players in the entire draft. And the Seahawks at number 9, I think are getting really good value here with Johnson, as we see 3 edge rushers go back to back to back. Jets now at 10. Now, we can't really look to go Ajabo here. He had a big injury, and I think there's a really good chance now after a torn Achilles that David Ajabo drops to the 2nd round. He was already going to be a developmental player anyway, who is more athlete than true edge at this point. And now I think you're adding a lot more time into that development. And yes, the Jets are a rebuilding team as well, but I don't think you'd go Ajabo here at 10. I think you'd look to capitalize on what we call a safer pick, especially picking so high. So I'm not going to look at Ajabo. I really think he's going to drop out of the 1st round now, similarly to the way we saw Miles Jack drop to the 2nd round, even though that seemed impossible at the time, and Jalen Smith drop, even though that seemed impossible at the time. Injuries will always drop players. It happens every single year. So we're going to avoid Ajabo. I think he's going to be a good player long term, but yeah, I don't really think we're going to take him here at 10 or even in the 1st round, as I said. So instead, we're going to go Drake London, first receiver off the board at 10. Big body to go with that offense, and I think that's going to be a really good fit. They're getting a bunch of different types of receivers, which is good. Drake London's going to be your X, maybe occasionally your big slot, although Elijah Moore is your true slot, I think, for the future. Corey Davis on the outside. Now you really have a good trio of receivers that you can be confident in. You addressed a bunch of offense last year. We're going to continue to do it. Build around Zach Wilson. Make it as easy as possible to develop him. So London is the pick here at 10. Got to get him a big weapon. And Drake London is exactly that. Washington Commanders at number 11. And I'm really thinking about going receiver here as well. Corner is in play with all of the top corners still available. And while I do like the potential of the Commanders receiving core moving forward with Terry McLaurin, who is incredible, with Diami Brown, with Curtis Samuel, who hopefully would stay healthy. The fact of the matter is Curtis Samuel, we don't know that he can stay healthy. And that's going to be a problem. Clearly, Carson Wentz is going to be the guy for at least this year. Let's try and surround him with a little bit more talent. We're going to pair the Ohio State receivers together despite not being teammates. Garrett Wilson and Scary Terry both will be outside threats for the Commanders. So Garrett Wilson to Washington as we get to the Vikings, and I think this should be an instant pick here. It makes sense for the team needs. It makes sense for what's available. We're going Sauce Gardner to the Vikings at number 12. They need corner really badly. If you can get maybe the best one in the draft at 12, they can be very happy with that. Texans now at 13, making their second selection. Of course, went with Kyle Hamilton at 3. I still think you're picking for the best player available at this point. I think with Cross at 13, that certainly has to be considered. Certainly has to be at this spot. And I am going to go with Charles Cross. It remains to be seen whether the Texans are looking to keep Titus Howard at guard or get him back outside at right tackle. Laramie Tunsil is going to be your left tackle. Titus Howard seems to be kind of not a great first round pick in hindsight. So we're going to go with Charles Cross. He's an upgrade over Charlie Heck. Immediately move him out to right tackle, have a full offseason to work out there and start doing everything from the other side. And I think if you're looking to build around Davis Mills or whoever your quarterback is next, and I don't think it has to be somebody else. I think there's a chance that Davis Mills can at least be a formidable starter. He was just a rookie last year, playing for one of the worst teams in the league. Hey, didn't look that bad. I think receivers in play here. I think that's an underrated, under-talked about pick at this point. Jamison Williams at 13. You got to keep in mind, this is a developing team. Take a shot at someone who's maybe the highest ceiling of any receiver in the draft, but we're going to go Cross. Got to protect your quarterback, and that's what we're looking to do here after going DB at 3. It's a little bit out there. Probably won't be doing it again, but we're going Charles Cross and Kyle Hamilton this time around at 3 and 13. And this, I suppose, will be my first big surprise of this mock draft. If you want to not talk about those quarterbacks, which could be surprises, I would say. We're not going to go with a Trevor Penning, as Morgan Moses was signed by the Ravens. Maybe they don't look to go tackle right now. I'm going to go defensive tackle. It's not going to be Jordan Davis. It's going to be Devontae Wyatt. They managed to bring back Michael Pierce, who is a true nose tackle. I think if you want to get pressure on the interior of the defensive line, Devontae Wyatt is your best bet, while Jordan Davis is still developing. Could become a great player. Right now, we really haven't been able to see what he can do as a pass rusher. Been very limited in his role at Georgia. Could end up being a great one, but Devontae Wyatt, we know he can do it. I think he's worthy of a top 15 selection, and the Ravens who need to beef up that defensive line outside of your nose tackle. Devontae Wyatt, not a bad bet. At number 15 for the Eagles, we're going Derrick Stingley Jr. Chance he falls into the teens very easily. Injury concerns, effort concerns. Outside of his first year, wasn't all that great at LSU because of the effort and the injuries. However, you look at him as a freshman, Stingley was incredible. One of the best college corners we've seen. He was that good. But the corners have fallen a little bit. Real good chance I think Stingley makes it to 15, even if he goes a lot earlier. I think there's a chance he falls, and the Eagles with back-to-back picks will try to catch a falling star with this one and pair up Stingley with the elite Darius Slay. At 16, back-to-back picks here. We're going to go with Jordan Davis. I think there's a really good chance that Jordan Davis wouldn't make it to 19 with the Chargers picking at 17. Hell, maybe the Saints would even take a shot at Jordan Davis, although I would kind of doubt it. But the Chargers are the real one that you're looking to avoid. I think there's a chance the Ravens could move back to 17. Maybe the Chargers want to move up for a defensive tackle. And Devontae Wyatt, maybe he makes it through the Eagles picks. Maybe he doesn't. Here's the thing. Fletcher Cox is only going to be back short term. He was just cut and then re-signed. So I think it's safe to say he's not in the Eagles' long-term plans, which that's fair given his age and contract. But Jordan Davis, nose tackle, space eater, and I think a really good combo as we look to rebuild this Eagles defense. And that makes this pick very easy for the Chargers. We're going to go Trevor Penning. I think there's a really good chance he could go a lot earlier. Happens to fall to 17, and I'm sure the Chargers would not hesitate to turn that draft card in. Could be your future starting right tackle. And you've got a really young, really cheap, because they just got drafted, pairing at left and right tackle for years to come with Rashawn Slater, Trevor Penning. That's a good combo, because with the fifth-year option, that means you have Rashawn Slater locked up for the next 5. or next 4 years from now. And you have Trevor Penning if you want for the next 5 with the 5th-year option. So that's a 4-year window of bringing in new players, and they already have J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack. This is your window around Justin Herbert right now. You've got some great talent. They're really going for it. Herbert's going to continue to get better. This Chargers team could look nasty. Got to protect him. I considered receiver at this spot as well, but Penning just seems like too easy of a selection as we get to the Saints at 18. And, I really don't think this is too tough of a situation either. Bringing back Jameis Winston, maybe not looking to go quarterback. Bunch of really good players on the board, but it's tough to pass on Jameson Williams here. Got a little bit of an Ohio State connection. We know the Saints love taking Ohio State players. Of course, Williams now more synonymous with Alabama after the transfer, and he really got playing time, and he really showed out. One of the best receivers in the country, no question about it. Got injured. Big concern there, but his rehab time is going by very quickly. He should be back near the start of the season, so I don't really see any reason why Jameson Williams should fall more than this. For the Eagles, 3rd pick here, we're going to go ahead and take Treylon Burks from Arkansas. We're rebuilding the defense, right? But the offense still needs work. You haven't really hit on your receivers. I think Devontae Smith will be a really big hit, but J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Jalen Reagor, these have not been great picks. You bring in not the best receiver in Zach Pascal from Indianapolis. Wasn't great last year. I think he's kind of past his prime, and his prime wasn't exactly a very high peak or anything either. Treylon Burks represents a very different receiver from Devontae Smith, and that's why I ultimately ended up going with him here at 19. I think he gives the Eagles something they don't have, which is a big body, yards after catch guy that can also win down the field vertically. Treylon Burks is a really interesting player, and I think the Eagles could very well take him at 19. With 3 picks, for them not to go receiver here in the top 20, I'd be really surprised. The cornerback group right now for Pittsburgh is not good. It's not. Like, Akella Witherspoon might be your best corner. Got Levi Wallace, got Justin Lane. It's not a great group. No more Joe Hayden in Pittsburgh. With a CB1 like Trent McDuffie on the board, this should be a very quick selection if he makes it to 20. So for the Steelers, with needs at receiver, offensive tackle potentially, some other spots as well, I think Trent McDuffie makes the most sense at 20. And same thing with the Patriots here. Their cornerbacks are just really, really not great in the absence of J.C. Jackson. So we're going to go with, I think, a player that profiles fairly similarly to J.C. Jackson. Really good athlete, tremendous ball skills, man cover corner. He's going to fit the system. And that's what the Patriots always look for. That's what Bill Belichick's always looking for. Guys that fit the system. And if you want to replace J.C. Jackson at 21, there's not a lot of better guys in the draft to do it than Andrew Booth Jr. It's no secret that the Packers need receiver help and even edge. Zadarius Smith is gone, but you did bring back Preston Smith. You have Rashawn Gary. I'm not sure it's the most important need here at 22. We're going receiver, and with Chris Olave on the board, even though I might prefer Christian Watson for the Packers offense as a true replacement for Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Chris Olave is another deep threat. He can win over the top. He's really good down the field, and that would pair so well with Aaron Rodgers. I think people think I'm down on Olave because I have him fall in a lot of mock drafts, but it's just kind of the way it's working out with really talented receivers. Olave at 22, though, I think makes a ton of sense for Green Bay, who with 2 first-round picks after trading Devontae Adams to the Raiders, I think will finally invest in a receiver in the first round. It's a lot cheaper than Devontae Adams, and yes, it's such a loss for the Green Bay offense, losing arguably the best receiver in football. But at the end of the day, I think it makes the rest of the team better. You're not able to bring back Rasul Douglas, who was amazing last year. You're not able to bring back Robert Tonyan, who is a really solid starting tight end in the offense. And now you can go out and get a receiver in the first round. It's a lot cheaper. It keeps the rest of your team together. It's tough to lose one of the best players in football in Devontae Adams, but he's going to be 30 before long. He's going to be very, very expensive. Does it hinder the rest of your team to keep that kind of a talent? It's a crazy argument, right? Because ideally, Aaron Rodgers isn't getting paid $1 billion and you can build the team like the way the Patriots built around Tom Brady for so many years. But this is how it is. And Aaron Rodgers is way more important to Green Bay's success than Davante Adams. It's just kind of the way things worked out. But yes, long story short, we're going Chris Olave. That's a replacement. But he's really more of a replacement for Marquez Valdes-Scantling to me than he is Davante Adams. For the Arizona Cardinals, as much as I think the corner's a need, I think edge is maybe a bigger need at this point after losing Chandler Jones. I'm going to go George Karlaftis. I think he's a good player. Being available at 23, I think it should be a pretty easy choice for the Cardinals at this point. Karlaftis is really good, and you gotta try and find a way to replace Chandler Jones. Karlaftis is as close as we're going to get at this point. And it's kind of tough to see what the Cowboys are doing, because you kind of thought they were close to competing. This was a team that made the playoffs, looked as good as they've looked in a while, and then you get rid of Amari Cooper. You can't bring back Randy Gregory. You cut La'el Collins. This team's kind of falling apart right now. So for the Cowboys, would they consider a guy like David Ojabo if their window isn't this year? They might. But for me, I just have to take Tyler Linderbaum. I think he's the best player on the board. And for the Cowboys, who need help on the offensive line, now at a number of different positions, there's no tackle to take. There's no true edge option. I think Tyler Linderbaum makes the most sense. Could also consider Zion Johnson or Kenyon Green as you get to the Bills at 25. And for me, it has to be Kaiir Elam. Just the best player available for the Bills. Need corner desperately. Elam, I think at 25 makes a ton of sense. Really went out and made a ton of moves on the defensive line in free agency. I think it's way less of a need now. Von Miller is the headliner at the very top of that, but of course made big moves on the interior as well. Daquan Jones, Settle as well. I mean, they went out and they really rebuilt that unit. What they didn't do is rebuild their cornerback group, and Elam is certainly a big time upgrade. For the Titans, I'm going to go Jahan Dotson, and this is even after the Titans traded for Robert Woods. With Robert Woods, another aging receiver, it's not quite the same as the Julio Jones situation, but if an injury happens, like Robert Woods went down for the whole season, pretty much in 2021, missed a large chunk, including all the playoffs. What happens if he gets injured again? What happens if AJ Brown goes down? What happens if Nick Westbrook-Akina goes down and he's not even that great, right? You need depth at the position. Offensive line, I want to say, is very much in play at this point. However, Jahan Dotson just seems to be pretty good value at the spot, and the Titans get a good one. This pick becomes very easy after that, and it's one of the left guards. Ali Marpet retired. It's just, do you prefer Zion Johnson or Kenyon Green? And I think for this particular offense, Zion Johnson makes a ton more sense. If you're more power run oriented, I think Kenyon Green is probably the pick, but that just really isn't the Buccaneers offense. So Zion Johnson is the easy replacement for Ali Marpet there. It's not overcomplicated. It's a Zion Johnson plug and play starting left guard. And with Tom Brady coming back, you got to protect him. Really thought about this one for the Packers for a while. And while it would be tempting to take another receiver, I'm not going to do that because I don't think the Packers would do that. I'm going to settle on Boye Mafe, who I think is the exact type of player that the Packers covet at the position. It's the same reason that Rashawn Gary was a first round pick. They value the trait and they know they can coach him up. For the Packers that continue to need help on the edge, who like to move their guys around, I think Boye Mafe is essentially your Zadarius Smith replacement. I think they'll be able to develop him in a similar way that they helped develop Rashawn Gary. And you could have a really good player who's one of the most athletic guys in the entire draft as it gets to the Dolphins at 29. And it would be tempting to go receiver here, but you know, I don't know that Christian Watson is for sure a first round guy. I think there's a chance that he is, and I would like him to go first round because that's cool. He's a really fun player. But for the Dolphins, as I record this, Teron Armstead is not a Miami Dolphin. And even if he would, I'm not sure that that's going to change his next pick for me. I'm going to go to interior offensive line and take Tyler Smith. He is a left tackle, has experience there. Now, he is potentially being viewed as a guard, although he is a tackle, and I think he can play tackle. play either right or left for the Dolphins, whether you want him as a blind side protector at right tackle because Tua is a lefty, or eventually moving him to the inside. What does Miami like to do? They like to run the ball. They like to throw screens. Tyler Smith can move. He's powerful. He's mean in the run game. I think he's exactly what the Dolphins look for. And Smith, it seems like, will be a first-round player. The Chiefs need a true edge so bad so they can move Chris Jones back where he belongs on the inside. I think it's the biggest need of all. You brought in Juju Smith-Schuster on a short contract. That's fine. Maybe it makes it so you don't have to take a receiver in the first round. I don't really love the corners on the board. I would consider Daxton Hill as that, I wouldn't call him a Tyrann Mathieu replacement, but if anyone's going to be close enough to it, it is Daxton Hill, who can play in the slot, who can play over the top. Really, really good player, but I think edge for this team is just a little bit more important. And I like Logan Hall at this spot. I really do, because he's not like a 3-4 outside linebacker type edge. This is a big 4-3 defensive end that is also that hybrid interior defensive lineman depending on the scheme. And with the Chiefs defense, Logan Hall, I feel, is a perfect fit on that defensive line. So even though via draft network predictive board status, Logan Hall seems like a reach here, I think he's very much in play to be a first round pick, whether it happens or not. I think there's a real chance that he will be. He's got the size, he's got the athleticism that teams covet. And when you're 6'6", over 280 pounds, and can play inside or outside, he's not really a tweener because he has the strength to play and be a dominant pass rusher on the inside. He has that potential. He showed off an amazing bull rush at the Senior Bowl and on tape as well. That's his go-to move. He's got the power to push the pocket. And the Chiefs, who need to get Chris Jones back playing a true interior defensive line role, I think at Logan Hall to have that size and strength as well as the athleticism that they covet at the position. So Logan Hall to me makes a ton of sense, whether you agree or not. For the Bengals, I don't really think they need offensive tackle so bad. Need Jonah Williams to stay healthy, but you brought in La'el Collins. You've revamped the offensive line. Is offensive line still in play here? Yeah, maybe, but certainly not as much as it was just even a month ago. The Bengals got to work. They rebuilt that group, and they're looking to protect Joe Burrow for the future. And for the Bengals, this is a more need pick. Here's the thing. Roger McCreary is being a little bit undervalued because of his shorter arms for the position. You'd like corners to have longer arms so they can make first contact and throw the receiver off, especially for a press man corner like Roger McCreary. However, his tape was so good last year, playing in the SEC, playing against top receivers. And the real only downside to his game, other than the short arms, is he's a little bit grabby. But I think the Bengals need cornerback help so badly. And yes, I like Mike Hilton. That's not what position Roger McCreary is going to be playing. Mike Hilton's a slot corner. Awuzie is going to be an outside guy. I don't trust Eli Apple as a 2. I really, really don't. Even though he had a decent season last year, he's on a short-term deal. And you need more cornerbacks anyway. Like, in the case of injury, we saw what looked to be a good cornerback group with the Bucs completely get eviscerated from injury. Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Jamel Dean, all these guys getting injured. And then you lose your 3 good corners and you're out starting Richard Sherman in 2021 at cornerback. It's not a good look. It really isn't. So depth, especially at corner, is so important. I think McCreary at least makes sense here. Would consider Kyler Gordon. I think it's a bit earlier for Tariq Woolen. And then to wrap up the first round, this feels like the classic, just take linebacker. I have these linebackers fall every single draft. And whether it's Quay Walker that sneaks in the first round, or Kobe Dean, Devin Lloyd, any of these other guys in between, like, it's tough with all the talent right here to want to go linebacker. We took quarterback at 2, and given how the board kind of sits, I'm going to go David Ojabo. I didn't think I would have him in the first round, but in the back end, at the very last pick of the first round, for a developing team, David Ojabo stays in Michigan, becomes a Detroit Lion, going east from Ann Arbor to Detroit, and will become a Lion. The reason I can rationalize this is the Lions are not ready to go this year, probably not even next year. So if you're going to take a shot on a guy, you probably wouldn't have had a shot to draft a healthy David Ojabo. This could be a blessing in disguise, and he will be the final pick for me here in this mock draft. Following free agency and some of these big trades, still waiting to see where Baker Mayfield goes, still waiting to see where Teron Armstead signs, things like that. But I'm comfortable releasing this. I'm happy with how it turned out. I think, did we take some risks? Sure. Liberties? Sure. Get it? First time I said that, when I had Willis going at 2, and I got destroyed for it, flamed, even though it's a real possibility. I didn't even realize I was doing a pun. But yes, I took some liberties with Malik Willis from Liberty at number 2. I think it's in play. I think Pickett, for the same reason, is in play at number 6. But that's the mock draft. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.
I hit it at the park, Ben Bones. See me high step to the end zone. My life like a game, Nintendo. Playing with the best, let them know. Get off the track, the train's coming through. Yeah. Promise you get in my way, then you best believe I'ma just run over you. Yeah, yeah. Papa turn taking it back to the house. Defense a joke, I'm laughing so loud. Speed burst good.